Thank you for joining us for Pet Connect. I'm Tara Douglas. Each week we have started implementing a viewer pet of the week. So this week we're going to start the show with Tiny. And we'll get the picture up in just a moment of Tiny. And if you want to send any pictures of your pets, just like Tiny here, she's living up to her name, weighing in at only 4 pounds. And judging from her little outfit, I believe she is definitely not spoiled. But she's our debut Chihuahua this week. And this is National Dog Month. So send some pictures of your dogs. And here's a kitty that's sneaking in on National Dog Month. This is Boudreaux. He is an available pet through Feral Dogs of Avondale and the animal shelter here in town. And our special guest today, Mitzi Smith, is actually fostering Boudreaux. So Mitzi, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And tell us a little bit about Boudreaux. Let's start with him since we showed his picture.
He's actually one of the kittens that I trapped over in behind the Oak Grove Feed and Seed with several others that week, and he's been at my house this time socializing him, and he's now available and ready for his home.
Great. So if you are able to adopt Boudreaux, then definitely you can message Feral Dogs of Avondale. I'll mention that several times. They are Feral Dogs of Avondale Mill and Friends of Sylacauga Animal Shelter. That's their Facebook page. And if you have any questions about that, you can definitely go online and find more information about them. You can also send those pictures of your pets, and it can be dogs, cats, whatever kind of pet you want to send in at the email that's at the bottom of the screen. So Mitzi, now that we've talked about Boudreaux, let's get to you. Tell our viewers a little bit about who you are.
I'm Mitzi Smith. I started rescuing back in the late 90s. That was when the Sylacauga's Animal Shelter was in downtown, the old utility building, which was a hovel. Behind the old Yonder's Blossom. A group had just vacated it, and we went in and bleached it out and started up and operated there a couple of years. And then the city finally built the facility that's now out on the Industrial Parkway.
Okay.
And we moved out there.
And that facility is quite nice, even though it's full most of the time. They do such a great job. And I see you out at the facility quite a bit because you're one of the board members of the Feral Dogs of Avondale Mill.
Yes.
Now, tell us a little bit about how Feral Dogs supports the shelter.
Well, Feral Dogs of Avondale Mill doesn't have a facility itself. So we rely on foster homes. So we go to the shelter every weekend and see what's in need, pull them out, put in foster homes that we have available. Sometimes we'll just take pictures and then we can network them out or try to get a foster. Sometimes we'll take a picture of a dog or a cat or kitten and say, hey, this one needs a foster. Can you foster it for us? We can only pull what we have fosters for.
Okay.
And then we put them in the foster homes, get them healthy, get them vetted, vaccinated, fixed, and available for adoption, or we send them to a rescue.
Okay. Now, they take pictures every Saturday at 11 a.m., and so there's always a need for volunteers for pictures, from what I understand. Now, do you have plenty of fosters with what you do?
No.
So how do you find those fosters? If someone's thinking about fostering, what do they need to know? Because we've discussed fostering quite a bit on the show, but that is an important part of what we can do to help the animals.
Yeah, it's according to what you want to foster. Sometimes we just need a medical foster for a dog that's been injured and needs to be released from the vet, and it doesn't need to go back to the shelter. Or you can foster kittens, or you can foster puppies. You can do one, or you can do more. We'll provide everything you need, from a playpen to a cage to food, all the vetting. Doesn't cost the fosters anything but their time and love.
Okay, and just to make sure everyone knows that Feral Dogs helps dogs and cats. Don't let their name confuse you. Now, Mitzi is quite the cat extraordinaire here. So tell us more of the different things that you do to help. I know you help the dog side of things, but the cat side of things. We've been focused on dogs so much, but.
Basically, with the cats, we try to pull all the small, young kittens out of the shelter because it's not a good environment for them. Put them into foster homes and let them get big enough to get fixed. And then usually around 10 to 12 weeks, we get those fixed and make them available for adoption at PetSense.
Okay.
So our volunteers, you can also be a PetSense volunteer.
Absolutely.
We need someone every day to go over there around lunchtime or afternoon and just clean the cage, check on them, make sure they're okay, restock their cage with food and water, and maybe go to the shelter and grab another one and bring it over. So basically we need the fosters, though, to get them healthy, because a lot of times what we're pulling out is not always healthy.
Okay.
And they need a place to go to recuperate. And then once they're over all of that, we get them vaccinated, vetted, fixed, adopted out.
And so they're ready to go once they're available for adoption. And at PetSense, you have 4 cages there for cats. And have you found that to be, it seems like that's been quite successful.
It has been. It's been a very good program. We really appreciate PetSense for letting us do that.
That's great. We're going to have somebody from PetSense on next month to talk more about that. But another aspect of being able to get the cats fixed, you've got to transport them. So let's talk a little bit about what happens with the transports that Feral Dogs takes care of.
When we have a load that's ready to go over to the spay and neuter clinic to be fixed, we'll set a date with them. We'll all meet that morning and load up in the van, one person, and we need drivers to go over to the Irondale Spay and Neuter Clinic. And then you drop them off and you go back the next morning and you pick them up. They go back into their foster homes until they're healed. And then they go over to PetSense. And then sometimes we post them just on our Facebook page.
Okay.
You know, these are waiting on a cage to go to PetSense, but they're available for adoption now. And our fosters will do meet and greets. They'll bring them up to the PetSense store and let you meet them if you want to.
That's great. And we've often talked about on the show that when you have these cats and dogs that come from foster, you can have the ability to talk to that foster parent and know more about the pet to see if it's right for your house, so that you can have that that introduction of those pets to your home and it be a successful adoption.
Yes.
Absolutely. Now, in your years of doing rescuing and working with the shelter and feral dogs, what has been the hardest thing for you to what's the hardest part of rescue, I guess?
There's 2 aspects to me, and the hardest part is there's so many coming in, you know you can't save them all. That's the biggest upsetting. It's a very emotional toll that it puts on all of our volunteers. And then the other aspect is trying to find them the right home. A home that's going to be a permanent home, a home that's not going to turn around and surrender them in 6 months to 3 years. You know, you take a sick kitten out of the shelter and you set up all night long syringe feeding it and getting it healthy and getting it back and forth to the vet and then getting it fixed, and then you get attached to them in those 2 to 3, 4 weeks that they might be in your home. So you just want, when they do get adopted, it to be the best home.
Absolutely. And that is, it's so important, and Feral Dogs does a really good job trying to find those good homes, because you do want that pet to be in a forever home. Absolutely. Now, one thing that I want to discuss, I guess we can talk about what's the most rewarding part, I guess, other than finding that forever home for those pets.
To me, the most rewarding part is the people that stay in touch with you after they adopt, and they'll send you videos and pictures and updates. It just makes it all worth it.
It's fun to see, because like you said, you bonded with them. You'd like to know how they're doing. Now, we wouldn't even need to be here if everyone took the spaying and neutering of pets seriously around here. What are you doing with the spay and neuter program?
Other than the discounted vouchers, we're also trying to help the community out and help them with certain situations that people will message us about.
Okay.
Because some people get overloaded, and we would much rather them contact us before they get overloaded, because some situations are even overwhelming for us.
Absolutely.
But if everyone would just spay and neuter, it would cut down on all of these, you know, kittens being fallen out of cars in parking lots, puppies getting run over on the road, puppies getting dumped out in the woods. The Last Litter program at the shelter, it's a wonderful program. You never have to dump a load of puppies in the woods. Just call the shelter, say, I want to do the Last Litter program, and we'll get those shots started and move those puppies out. And
tell us some of the specifics of Last Litter program. We've never talked about that on the show. What, you know, other than calling the shelter and they agree to help with the puppies, what happens?
Okay. The Last Litter program is only available for puppies.
Okay.
And basically, when the puppies get 6 weeks old, we can go ahead and start vaccinating them. They need dewormer by then, very much so. They really need that beforehand. And that's another thing people need to understand, that they need to deworm these puppies starting at 4 weeks old. But we can get shots started at 6 weeks. We can do a second set of shots at 8 to 9 weeks, and then we can start looking for a rescue to pull that whole litter at one time.
So talking about the rescues, that's leading me into something else that we need to discuss. You do have a series of rescues across the country that you can send the dogs and cats to, but my understanding is that that's slowing down quite a bit,
yes.
that a lot of those rescues are getting full themselves. So how hard is it right now to find rescues to take some of our dogs and cats from this area?
I don't want to say it's getting impossible, because we are still moving. Okay, for example, we move 125 a month on a good month, and then right now we're eking out 70 to 80, 85.
Okay.
So it's greatly impacted us and our ability to help the shelter.
And when you think about it, I think most people in the area don't realize how big those numbers are. I mean, that's 125 dogs and cats that are being sent to other parts of the country to be adopted, and yet the shelter's still full, and the shelter is on an intake hold, and the people are still calling, wanting to bring pets to the shelter to drop off, and there's just no space for them. So getting back to the spay and neuter, if we can get things going there. And Feral Dogs has sold a lot of those spay and neuter vouchers over the years.
Oh, yes.
I was reading on Facebook, was it like 6,000 spay and neuter vouchers since Feral Dogs started.
Mm-hmm.
And that's phenomenal. And
that's what we don't understand. We've sold 6,000 spay and neuter vouchers. We've probably shipped off 7,000 animals in our 5 years, and we're more overloaded now than we've ever been.
But just keep pushing. Y'all are doing such a great job getting the message out there, and I think we'll see a big turnaround, because you're really doing a good job, and so many of those spay and neuter vouchers, and if we can just keep getting the word out that we need to do that. It's going to make the city better. Now, one quick thing before we go to the upcoming fundraiser. What, we're going to hopefully have you back on sometime soon, because you're doing a lot of trapping feral cats in this area and doing a fabulous job with that. Is there any quick thing you'd like to tell people that have any feral cats that they've noticed that they're feeding? Something that can help them understand what they need to do.
It would help us if they would message our Facebook page or email us to say, we're feeding cats at this location, so that we know what's out there and needs to be addressed.
Okay.
And also on the weekends is when we do our trapping on Sundays, because our vet appointments are on Mondays. And if people that are feeding would just not feed on the weekends, or hit us up and say, hey, are you doing our area this weekend? Do we need to hold food? Because it's almost impossible to get these stray cats to go into a trap if they're not hungry.
And if you can just get those cats, then there will be no kittens coming from that. So you're not going to have to worry about sending more kittens off to transport,
right,
or try to find more homes for them, or get them to Pet Sense, and all these things that we talked about that are all the wonderful things that Feral Dogs does for this area.
But we concentrate right now on the businesses,
okay,
especially downtown businesses,
okay,
because there are no outlets for those, and we're trying to get all of those fixed first.
Okay. That's great. And we'll have you on the show again soon, hopefully, so that you can talk more about what's happening with the trapping and the whole process of what needs to happen with that. And you have done so much. I've been with you on weekends where you're answering Facebook messages, text, you're getting calls, you're handling your life, and I know that everyone appreciates all the hard work you put in. You definitely work 7 days a week to and never have a vacation. I mean, poor Mitzi, when she goes on vacation, she's answering calls and text and trying to take care of things at home when she's out of town. So, everyone appreciates everything that you do. But before we let you go, let's talk about the upcoming fundraiser. So we've got the Butts for Mutts coming up. So tell us a little bit about what that is.
It's a combined fundraiser that we're doing for the Feral Dogs of Avondale Mill and the Coosa County Animal Shelter. So for every butt sold, we'll split the proceeds with them equally.
Okay, great.
And the money is due by August the 27th, and you'll pick the butt up at the Sylacauga Animal Shelter the Saturday before Labor Day.
So that's a great way to contribute and to help them raise some money for our local shelter. But then you also just got to hear about the new Coosa shelter and the excitement with that, and you can support them as well. So just remember to get on either the Facebook page, and you can order directly from Feral Dogs on their Facebook. You can talk to one of the volunteers and get that set up. And then you can also go by Mutt Cuts at 210 Calhoun. So they're a block off of Broadway, close to the library. And those are many ways that you can get that. And thank you again, Mitzi, for joining us. We appreciate you coming in today and telling us about all of your endeavors with cats. And make sure you join us next week. We'll have Joan Morris on, and she's one of the volunteers for Feral Dogs of Avondale. We're going to talk more about what she does. And then a quick update before we go. We were able to get, so far, 166 pounds of puppy food that CPC Aesthetics and Wellness, who Amy Barrett was on with me last week, and they were able to get that much food for the shelter. But it's still going on today. So if you have time to hop on Facebook and follow them or share their Facebook page, they will continue to donate money through the end of the food through the end of the day, £1 for every follow that they have. So thank you for joining us, and we will see you next week.